Hi. Thank you so much for my Vercel friends for having me back at Ship. I'm super thrilled to be sharing some stuff with you today. My name is Charlton. I'm the CTO of FLORA. Before that, I led engineering teams at Squarespace, Frame.io, and Adobe. Today, I want to share with you how we're using Vercel Sandboxes in production and how we arrived at using them. First, a little bit about FLORA. We're building tools for the creative professionals that adapt to the work in front of them. We think of it all as a creative operating system. FLORA is a node-based canvas for text, image, audio, and video AI generations. We support over 200 AI models, and we're used by customers like Nike to take a shoe sketch to a full 360 video, or Lionsgate Films to spin up a spec video. We're rethinking the whole stack of creative production workflows through an AI native lens. Here's a look at the product. You can see how the creative ideas are chained together in these little nodes. Each node is actually a generation. This one is taking an ad and sort of reformatting it to different aspect ratios. And we have customers across different creative industries, from fashion, branded design, architecture, film industry. We're used by hundreds of thousands of creatives across the world building real workflows. The real power of FLORA, though, comes from building reusable workflows. We call these techniques. This was an evolution on the initial Canvas interface that we introduced because customers really needed reliability and consistency. That's what we heard over and over and again. And this is how creative production teams of today actually scale. This is actually a technique for a brand campaign called Repose. I think the guy looks super cool. But I want to start today with a tension that we kept running into when building FLORA in this type of new agentic world that we're in. For decades, we, software engineers, shipped buttons. Buttons are rigid. Buttons like crop, blur, render. We had to decide what every single button did at build time, and then we shipped it. Code and buttons are rigid, but rigid is good. Rigid is predictable. Rigid is solid. It's trustworthy. AI, on the other hand, is squishy. I like that word. It came from one of our engineers, Kyle Schaefer. It can adapt. It can morph. It can recover. It can rebound. It has to give a little. It can't just do exactly what you tell it to do. And here's the problem. Squishy and predictable are supposed to be opposites. Squishy means that anything can happen, and predictable means that you're not going to have any surprises. I found in my career that professional creatives, they have just an exquisite eye. These folks have spent decades looking at pixels, so they can see a half pixel that's off. They can see a dropped frame. They will immediately churn from your app if they detect any jank. They want it to be polished. Polish isn't a nice to have for us at FLORA, it's a must. We needed both, but the question we couldn't escape was, how do you build an app that's squishy enough and predictable enough that a professional trusts it? Because the irony is, as you reduce your constraint over AI, you and I have all felt this, it tends to get more powerful and creative. I almost shared a tweet from Matt Pocock that was like, you can just delete lines from your skills and it'll probably keep working. For us at FLORA, this meant giving the AI room to play and experiment, create new workflows, and even write and run code. But arbitrary code execution needs boundaries. That uncontrolled exploration needs to come from and go back into the deterministic side of the product. It needs to be protected and shaped, but that doesn't mean that it needs to be totally controlled in the same way that we used to control what every little button used to do. Code and agents, they kind of need different stuff, right? Code is consistent, it's predictable, it's fast, it's cheap, whereas agents are smart and flexible, but slow and expensive. A lot of AI product work today, I've found, is deciding when to let the agent cook, when to let the code do the work, and when to let the agent write the code that does the work. Vercel Sandboxes has really been that bridge for us. It's the place where we can give AI a room to explore. Because AI can easily write code, it just needs a place to run it cheaply, repeatably, and it needs to know that the output's going to be valid. So today, I want to walk you through 3 different production workflows. All of them use Vercel Sandboxes, but for completely different reasons. The first one is the little purple node. It's called Actions. It's a way for users to run media operations on their assets in FLORA. The second one is our FLORA MCP server. It allows agents to compose FLORA capabilities themselves with the whole SDK. And the third one is Timeline Editor. It's a heavyweight media workstation runtime that needs low latency and statefulness. So 3 completely different reasons to use Vercel Sandboxes, but really gives us that balance of the polished versus the predictable versus the squishy. First up is Actions. While I talk, we'll have a little Ken Burns effect being built here. The purple nodes are going to do some media operations. This was built by our engineer Cameron Yee, who's in the audience today. Using Actions, users can run custom media transformations on assets in their canvas. It runs against real FLORA assets. So you can see the images go in, there's more images that come out, and the result that comes back is normal product state. Assets on the canvas, metadata, errors, previews. And these aren't toy transformations. The code running inside has the real media stack, has FFmpeg, it has ImageMagick, the full Node and Python ecosystems. So an action can transcode videos, pull frames, generate a mask, composite layers, re-encode to different codecs, everything you would need for a real professional media pipeline. We started out with this feature with just like a small curated set of actions to make sure that it got it right every time. But to do that, we developed an internal agent that could write them on the fly, and we found that this was just too powerful to not give customers. So I'm really excited. We're going to be releasing custom actions to users later this week. That lets users use our on-canvas agent called Fauna to generate actions for themselves, run those repeatable media transformations that you can use again and again, share them with your team, and package them into techniques, those repeatable workflows that allows you to just keep composing more and more of your media workflows. The point isn't that it's running code in generation by itself, it's that the arbitrary code execution just becomes another step in the flow of the node canvas and the creative workflow. Here's a little look under the hood. So it starts with the FLORA asset, and then we spin up a sandbox from a snapshot. We download the inputs. We create that trusted harness. We lock down the network, so importantly, actions don't have access to any of the network. They can't get into too much trouble. And then we run that untrusted code on behalf of the users. This is the key part, though. After the code gets run, we validate that output, and the product gets to decide what's valid to get back into the product as a FLORA asset. So by the time it gets back to the canvas, it's a normal asset. The sandbox gives us isolation, but the product gets to decide what API the sandbox can interact with. And that's the difference between just like running a script somewhere and becoming a real FLORA feature. In terms of the canvas and other features like techniques, these actions are just another step in the process. Next up, I want to show you our MCP server. While I talk, Claude's going to build us a little ad campaign for Kiwis. Our MCP lets you access all of FLORA right from your own AI, whether it's in Claude or Codex or Hermes. For our first MCP server, we explored many different architectures. I went back and looked at the original PRD, and we actually had the architecture that we landed on originally. But first, we ended up building the MCP server with one tool per capability. Every time we added a new tool, we just added it to the server. It was built by engineers Danny Aziz and Alec Harmon, who are also here. The first approach was super naive. But as anyone who works with context, that it would start to eat up the context window. We got up to 18 tools, and we noticed that the agent's recall was starting to go down. It wasn't picking up on the tools that it needed. It couldn't figure out which tool to use for the right job. So we dropped the 18 tools and we switched to a 2-tool model. There we go, we got some Kiwis. Search, docs, and execute. And now the agent isn't just calling one tool per turn, it's writing TypeScript against pre-authenticated FLORA SDK client and running that code in the sandbox. Because we found, I saw this when I was building the demo, like the agent's just really effective at writing parallelizable, organized code and expressing that intent through code and running in a sandbox rather than trying to do it one per turn. Again, a little look under the hood. Kind of the same format. This time, the user intent comes from outside FLORA. The agent's writing the code. And And then we spin up the sandbox. One thing that I've found and all the engineers working with it is that Vercel Sandbox is just incredibly easy to work with from a developer experience. You can get something working in literally seconds from your dev environment because it's not tied to your deployments or anything like that. So we spin up the snapshot, it takes a couple hundred milliseconds. We create a trusted harness again. This time you can only talk to the FLORA API and nothing else. We run that untrusted code. In this case, the agent was running the code. And then we validate the outputs again. So we make sure that the output is not only what the agent expects, but also that it's a normal FLORA asset, that it can be used, because all of this is just working as if it were on the FLORA canvas, like the other features. And so notice the primitive. It's the same Vercel Sandbox we use for actions. We have a squishy input. The agent gives us some arbitrary code, but we make it reliable by that boundary before it goes back out into the product. The third workflow I want to share with you is the real sleeper, I think. It's a timeline editor or a video editor. It was built by Eni Biomo. We've been prototyping video editors for months now. It's something we knew that we were going to have to build at FLORA, also coming out later this week. There are many very smart people working on this problem. I know from my time at Frame.io, it's a famously hard problem to get true video editing capability onto the browser. There's lots of cool teams working on fully featured browser-only editors all the way to agentic video editors. We knew we needed something like that in FLORA, but our challenge was we needed a good solution that worked equally well both on the browser and in the server, because if you go back to techniques, this has to work just like any other step in the workflow. We actually don't know where it's going to run. So the problem was giving a professional video export of really fast, reproducible runtime that we could do on the client or the server. The two unlocks for us here were Remotion and Vercel Sandboxes. The snapshot becomes a little render workstation that can be called quickly and headlessly. We get the browser preview from Remotion, and then Remotion gives us a way to compose that full frame render on the server in a really high quality export. And again, it just becomes another step in the creative process on the canvas. Again, let's take a look at under the hood. This time the untrusted isn't really untrusted. We actually do trust it, so we're using sandboxes for a little different reason. We get an intent from Remotion, we spin up the snapshot, we download the input, we create that trusted harness so it can't get into too much trouble. In this case, it only has access to like dependencies and that type of thing. Then we render the composition using the Remotion export. We validate the outputs to make sure that it exactly matches what we can show back on the canvas, and we get it back in as a FLORA asset. You might say you could do this in other serverless primitives. There's nothing special about sandboxes here, but there's actually a few tailwinds that we found. One of them is that the sandboxes can be stateful, so we can actually pick back up a render where we left off if we want to. That helps with latency. And it also, you get some asynchronous benefits. You don't have to manage the request lifecycle. It just becomes another job in the queue. That's really helpful as we grow and scale this feature and get more and more complex video export workflows happening. So across these workflows, the sandbox was never meant to be enough by itself. The shape that we kept discovering looked like this. We have this user intent, the sandbox, we spin up the sandbox from the snapshot in a few hundred milliseconds. We create that trusted harness. We're really specific about the network access that it has. We validate the outputs to make sure that the product, the deterministic side, is going to expect what comes out of it, and then we give it back out as product output. That unpredictability of untrusted code or user intent needs a place to run, that squishy element, but we also needed to be able to give it a predictable boundary so it can get back into the product, and Vercel Sandboxes was really the bridge for us that allowed us to do that. Squishy is really easy to demo these days. With everything going on in the industry, it's really easy to spin up a really quick demo that is very mesmerizing. But creative professionals need to be able to trust their tool. Like I said, they have a really exquisite eye. They need very high quality and consistent output. Vercel Sandboxes gave us a way to combine those two needs into the polish that we need. They help us turn the arbitrary into the reliable, and they've been crucial in our evolution to create an app that is both squishy and predictable in a way that's polished enough for creative professionals. So I encourage you, give Vercel Sandboxes a spin. We've sure loved them, and they've been crucial in building what we're working on at FLORA, and I'm sure we'll keep using them for ever more interesting things. And check out FLORA, or come see us for a demo. We'll be around if you want to integrate AI into your creative production workflows. Thank you so much.